Let me jump to our guest just in case this is going out. I'm pretty sure it can be. Joseph, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you, Tony?
I'm great, Joseph. And Joseph Bolanos, you're okay, great. Thank you so much. Cool, everybody. So, again, welcome to our show, What Really Matters NYC. We're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Sometimes we have little glitches here and there because we're a live show. You know, we're not canned. We don't tape an hour before and then air it. We're live, and you can call live, 212-757-1541, and give us your opinion on whatever subject you want. We're here for 28 minutes until 28 minutes after the hour. We give you the weather as well, so hang with us. But, you know, and we've got our commentator, Lorraine, as well, who helicopter views what's going on in New York for us. But right now we're talking to Joseph Bolanos. He's an Upper West Side advocate here in Manhattan, and it's about rats. And I was saying that, you know, rats are always something that touches everyone in New York City. And so we noticed that, Joe, you were in the news about rats recently, and I used to live sort of in the Upper West Side, and I know there were a lot of rats there. So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization, what you've been doing?
Sure. I'm the president of a landmark historic block association on the Upper West Side, and we've really, you know, rats have been kind of around for hundreds of years. I mean, they're not new to the city. However, there are certain situations that make certain areas worse than others. And in our case, in our block, it's been the proliferation of construction and brownstone renovations in the last 10 years. And the Department of Health is not helping much because they have pretty much a passive policy in addressing the infestations. And basically the onus falls on building owners, and there's not really an active program by Department of Health. They're more into educating superintendents and landlords. But basically what's happening is because of so much construction, we're basically been overrun where I live, and it's totally gotten out of hand.
So tell me where you live. Is this Upper West Side? I used to live on 78th and Broadway, and I know there were lots of rats there. I mean, I would walk my dog sometimes. There'd be 15, 20 rats on the sidewalk when I come out at 10 or 11 at night.
Yeah, I'm on 76th Street between Columbus and Central Park West. And we've had, in the last 10 years, we've had approximately 7 to 8 brownstone conversions from multiple dwellings to single-family owners, which means that in the last 10 years, there hasn't been 1 year where they haven't been overlapping at least 2 construction sites on the block.
And so what's that mean when construction brings out the rats?
Yeah, the Department of Health is saying that it doesn't happen, but in reality it does, because anytime you move large quantities of earth, or you shift things, or you open up for piping and new gas lines and what have you, you displace rats. I mean, they burrow underneath in their networks of rats that are underground on any given city block. So when you do constant construction, and you also have workers, there are no policies for workers and when they eat and how they dispose of their refuse. So what happens is, more often than not, you'll have dumpsters that are open, and you'll have construction workers that'll be eating and tossing their, you know, McDonald's or their Shake Shack cartons, and they're not covered at night. So what in effect is happening is you're creating a feeding frenzy at night of rats that are in the area.
Wow. Well, I know that there was a lot of rats at 78th and Broadway because the subway was right there. The 79th Street intersected with Broadway. And I understand, and so that a lot of the rats came from there. And we lived next to a school that put their garbage out, and it was just, you know, huge piles of garbage that would sit there all night, so the rats would just come feast on them.
Well, yeah, one of the problems is, and again, you know, a lot of people in City Hall talk about the rats, and, you know, it's a common problem and what have you. But years ago, I spoke to then council person Carl Perkins, who I believe is a state senator now. And
yeah, I know Senator Perkins. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know Senator Perkins, and we did a show once on his rat survey. Yeah.
Yeah, he was very active. In fact, he had studied, and I think he actually traveled to Singapore, where garbage is picked up on schedule, meaning that the garbage, unlike New York City, doesn't sit out for 12 to 13 hours. That's one of the problems of the city that I keep talking to people about, is that the supers and the maintenance people put the garbage out typically at 6 p.m., and it doesn't get picked up for, I don't know, 13, 14 hours, 7 to 8 o'clock the next morning, which in effect, what you're doing is you're creating a buffet for rats to be feasting on through plastic bags.
Did you see the video the weekend came out on the fairway, the rats in the Upper West Side fairway?
Yes. Yes, I saw it.
I'm going to play it real quickly for everybody, just in case anyone else missed it. But they claim this is the fairway on the Upper West Side. And if you look closely and you're patient, So, yeah, I saw that and was a little bit disturbed when I saw that this weekend, because I used to, shop a lot at the at that fairway. But I thought that generally stores have got cats and stuff that they keep around for that, right?
Yeah, but the problem is that even Department of Health, DOH, will tell you that cats really are not. Cats typically go after mice, but they will not usually challenge rats. And the other thing, too, is that rats are synonymous with human beings. Wherever there are human beings, wherever there's waste, that's where you're going to find cats. I mean rats, excuse me. So if you read, I've been reading the book Rats, I believe it's by Robert Sullivan, pretty interesting book. And it'll tell you that rats mirror the habits of human beings. So wherever we are, we have refuse, that's where you're going to find rats. And stores are no exception, especially large, the produce and tailway in the basement when they do prepping and what have you. That's just, there's so much volume that the control is very difficult as far as isolating food and containing food. So you're going to have that type of access from underground from the rats.
Well, Joseph, I'm beginning to worry a little bit. Would you say, as an expert, apparently, that most of our food in restaurants and in supermarkets that's stored in basements while it waits to come upstairs to be served to us has been, let's say, inspected by rats? Well,
I would say that I wouldn't say something that in an alarming fashion, but I think that anytime that you have food and access, and for example, a prep kitchen might have maybe 4 or 5 cases of lettuce or meats or fish or just quantities where they're prepping the food. They don't prep it. Let's say if someone's prepping fish, they're not going to take one fish and cut it up. They're going to have 5 or 6 fish, and the waste from that is going to go into a garbage disposal or a garbage can. And the minute that you leave that area unattended, that's opportunity, especially late night when stores are either closed. All that a rat needs basically is about an ounce of food a day. And it needs its carbs, its proteins, just like a human being. So anywhere where a minimal amount of food is stored or left out is where you're going to probably find rats.
Wow. Lorraine, you have any questions for Joe?
Well, sure. Are there any sort of creative ways to combat rats that you can think of besides putting diarrheals in the food that they might want to eat?
Or shooting them with a rifle, you could just sit there and wait.
Well, it's really, it's funny because for the longest time in New York, the policy was, baiting and poisoning and what have you. And now there's been a turn on that type of policy simply because baiting really doesn't work, or it's not as effective as you would think. I mean, when you see a burrow, meaning a hole in a planter in front of a building, typically a burrow can contain anywhere from 8 to 12 rats. And if those burrows interconnect with other burrows and then into other networks, what happens is if you bait one burrow, that's not necessarily indicative that you're going to catch or you're going to poison a rat. And the theory right now is that if you starve rats, meaning if you really take a proactive approach and policy toward containing refuse and garbage, not putting it out for 12 hours, that's when you starve the rats, and that's when rats basically turn on each other. They'll eat each other before they move, and then they'll move when there's no food.
Wow. So we have a long way to go, because I know they're taking all the trash cans out of the MTA. Maybe that's one of the reasons, too, as well, for the subways. They're taking all those out. Although I saw some rats there tonight riding the subway.
Well, it's ironic that they're doing that because theoretically it sounds great, but I've never seen a rat on a platform. I'm sure there are. I've only seen rats on the tracks. So right. As long as people throw garbage onto the tracks, you're just going to have the same old problem.
Yeah. Well, listen, Joseph, we thank you very much for the update. We're probably going to let you go because we got to do the weather, and the half hours move so quickly. We're almost halfway through the show already. Lorraine, do you have anything else you'd like to add or ask?
Well, I just wanted to ask them, have they been trying out new trash containers, maybe metal ones, and can the rats chew through the plastic, the hard plastic trash big containers?
The new metal narrower trash cans have had some success, where it makes it very difficult for rats to chew through. The plastic ones are a different story. Given enough time, a rat that's motivated will chew through plastic. But the metal, there's a new set of the whole key is not only the material of the container, but also having lids. The whole key is having lids so that you can seal in the garbage, and they are being very successful so far. But again, some of these narrow new canisters are narrow and they hold less garbage.
Joseph, what's the biggest rat you've ever seen or heard of in your studies, I guess?
Well, from my experience, years ago, I saw a rat which was approximately about 2 feet to 2¼ feet long.
What?
And it was very fat. I mean, it looked, from behind, it looked like a possum, actually. That's how wide it was. And it was very slow, and it was kind of wobbling. And then it wasn't until I really focused on it that I realized that it was a rat.
Holy cow. I think that beats the last show about rats. 2 feet big. Damn.
Yes.
Well, Joe, listen, thanks so much for your insights and for your help here. And what's your website? Do you have a website people can go to?
I have the Block Association website, but no, they can. If somebody wants to email me, they can email me through my regular email.
Okay. And Joe, you're a security consultant as well and a community advocate in the Upper West Side. Thank you for your work. You know, there's not a lot of people who actually care about enough subjects that are important to us to kind of pick up the pick up the topic and run with it. So thanks very much on behalf of all New Yorkers.
Great. Thank you very much, Tony. Great talking to you, and have a nice evening, Lorraine. Thanks again.
Cheers.
Okay, bye. Nice
Bye.
to meet you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.